Hello everyone, welcome to part 3 of my restoration of an original Aurora Dr. Jekyll as Mr. Hyde. None of this is what I'm about to tell you is going to make any sense unless you look at parts 1 and 2, which are on YouTube. And this is an update to show you, as promised, show you the progress that I've made and the things that I've done since part 2, and hopefully give you some ideas, or at least be of interest to some of you who are considering restoring some kits yourself. It shows it can be done. Okay, so starting off with the table then. The whole project has been extremely challenging. It's been made by probably a young boy, and not a lot of care had been taken over the construction or the painting or whatever. So it was very challenging, and part 1 of what I had to do was to remove the items from the table, which, as you can see, I've done. I did cause some damage to the table doing that, but I really wasn't worried about that because I thought, well, it gives some texture to the table, some wear and tear, and adds a bit of interest, I thought. So I've stuck with it. The original builder actually used a mixture of the glow-in-the-dark parts and the non-glowing parts, and I decided to stick with that because that was his original idea, and that was what he enjoyed. So I've stuck with that as much as I could. Some of the parts were simply unsalvageable, but I've salvaged what I could, and as you'll see in a minute, I've used a mixture of those glowing and non-glowing parts. The base, as you can see, you can probably still see some evidence of it. There was a lot of damage to the base, glue and blobs of paint and etc. Needed some sanding, some filling, some repairing. I moved the table from its original location when I first bought it. There's still some damage on the floor in there, but a lot of that's going to be hidden by once I've stuck Dr. Jekyll himself onto there and the stall. Remainder of the damage will be hidden, I think, so I'm not too worried. I've stuck with one rat. He had 2 rats on there, the glowing one and the non-glowing one, and I've stuck with just one original rat there, and I've repainted him, removed his seams and so on to make him look a little better. One of the things that really wouldn't come off was the nameplate there, so I had to paint it in situ, and it needs some more work. It needs some touching up and etc. But as I said, this is an ongoing project. It's still not finished. It's far from finished, but it will give you a rough idea of the progress I've made. Painted the edge of the base in a gloss blue, but that's personal choice. You can pretty much do whatever you want to do yourselves. I've used the original spider. He used again, as I said, the gloss and the glowing and the non-glowing, and although both webs were there, not both spiders were there, but I've used the glowing web and the glowing spider. They're originally stuck at the front. I've actually moved them around to the side there. So the base now is getting somewhere near finished, apart from adding some detail, a bit more weathering, painting of the nails and etc. So that's pretty much on its way. Okay, there's the main body of the kit. Now this really wasn't stuck together well. and the seams hadn't been cleaned up, so there was a lot of gaps in the seams, and it really wasn't stuck together very well. It actually took a lot of convincing to stay stuck together once I dismantled it, to be honest. So I had to strengthen it a little bit inside to give it with glue and a bit of filler, a bit of painter's caulk to convince it to stay together. The arms, the forearms, as they came off, caused quite a bit of damage. Although they came unstuck reasonably easily, they had caused a fair bit of damage. But that'll all disappear once the arms are stuck back in. The main body was sprayed with a light grey first, and then an overspray of white, so it gives you that sort of darkened shade look. I'm going to put some more highlights on there, probably some satin whites and etc. The shirt front and the legs gave me a lot of problems. They really didn't want to stick back together. It needed a lot of glue, a lot of convincing, some reinforcement at the back there, as you can see, to get those to stay together. Eventually I did convince them. The belt I've painted simply in a gloss brown. I may well kind of weather that a little bit. Shoes, they had massive seams on them. Needed an awful lot of work. But anyway, eventually I got rid of the seams, and I painted them matte black initially, and then dry brushed them with some satin black to give them a slight sheen. And the stool, that was another thing that it was in more or less one piece when I got it. There was one of the supporting struts had broken off, but that was not a problem. Stuck that back on. I sanded it a bit. I got rid of a lot of the flash seams that were there, scraped them off, repainted it. Needs a bit more work, a bit more weathering, but I think you get the idea. It's certainly looking better than it did when I originally bought it. The head, if you'll remember from part 1, was a glowing head, and he painted some blood around the mouth and whatever. And I've done some a little bit of pyrograph work there to give the hair a bit more texture and get rid of the seams. There was a very distinct seam around the two halves there, particularly around the centre of the head and the neck and etc. So I've repainted him again. He needs a little bit more work, but so you get the idea. He's coming along quite nicely now, and almost ready for fixing. The arms, arms had major seams on them which needed cleaning up, and a little bit of filler with some sink marks that were in them, but you know, again, I think they're looking better. Now, I did say I think it was part 1, I said that I wasn't going to interfere, I wasn't going to add detail or take any liberties, but one thing I did have to do, just as a model maker, I just had to add some detail. I couldn't help myself, so I've actually pyrographed some texture into that for the, you know, to make it look a bit hairier. This arm, the right arm, was always intended by the manufacturer to be sort of hairier. It's to sort of demonstrate a gradual transition from Dr. Jekyll to Mr. Hyde. Again, needs a lot more work. It's far from finished, but it's just to give you an idea. And the pyrograph there, it's just melted into the plastic and giving it a bit of a hairier kind of texture to it. The bottles, what I did with those was mask them off painted them with whichever colour I chose. The top halves were sprayed matte white and then gloss white, and then given an overspray of gloss varnish just to kind of give them a glassy look to them. And again, same idea with the bottle that he drinks from, matte white, masked off, and then this kind of metallic green, which was my choice, but you can use whatever colour you want. That's the bottle he drinks from. And then finally the Bunsen burner, the one that's above the Bunsen burner. I've used exactly the same technique, and then I've just used Umbro M53 to give this a metallic finish for the stand for the Bunsen burner. And the Bunsen burner itself, again, not finished, but you get the idea. I've cleaned it up, and it's got matte black on it at the moment, but it will be touched up with some M53, a little bit of metallic colour to make it look more realistic. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the update. The final part will be the finished product, and I'll describe a little bit more of my methods, techniques, and what I did. And I hope this has been either of interest or of use to some of you. That'll help you if you're restoring kits, and if not, then I hope it's at least interesting, even if you're not intending to restore any kits yourself. Okay, well, many thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next part, the final part. Bye for now then.